I'll never forget the moment Lisa walked through the door that evening. She had that glowing, carefree smile plastered across her face, the kind she used to reserve for me back in the early days of our marriage. It twisted something deep in my gut. I knew where she had been, and more importantly, I knew who she had been with. She set her purse on the counter and began humming, oblivious to the storm brewing in the room. Then, her eyes landed on the photo, sitting squarely in the middle of the granite island, framed by the dim light above. The change was instantaneous. Her smile vanished, replaced by a pale, ghostly expression. Her breathing grew shallow, and she staggered back a step. For a moment, I thought she might faint. She gripped the edge of the counter, her knuckles white, as if the image in that glossy 5/7 could physically harm her. I'd printed it this morning. The picture was of her, in that unmistakable red dress, the one I bought her for our anniversary 2 years ago. She was laughing, her head tilted back, while another man held her close. His hand rested on the small of her back, too familiar, too intimate. The background? A boutique hotel downtown that Lisa had claimed was hosting a ladies-only spa retreat. I'd hired a private investigator 3 weeks ago. It was surreal to see it so clearly. The betrayal, the lies, the double life she had been leading. The snapshots, the receipts, the texts captured by the investigator. They had painted a vivid picture. The truth stared at me every night from my laptop screen, daring me to confront it. And now, it stared back at Lisa. What? What is this? She finally stammered, her voice barely audible. Her eyes darted from the photo to me, pleading silently for an explanation that wouldn't come. You tell me, I said, leaning back in my chair. My voice was calm, too calm. It was the calm before the storm. Her lip trembled, but she didn't speak. She looked cornered, like a deer frozen in the headlights of an oncoming semi. Her mind was scrambling, probably trying to piece together a story, a way out, but there was no way out. How long? I asked, my tone cutting through the silence like a blade. Ethan, I've been... How long? I repeated, my voice rising slightly. She hesitated, then crumbled. 6 months, she whispered, barely audible. 6 months. Half a year of deceit, of sharing her laughter, her intimacy, her body with someone else. I felt the familiar surge of anger, but I didn't let it show. Not yet. I stood and walked to the counter, picking up the photo. I held it out to her, forcing her to look at it again. Him? I asked, pointing to the man in the picture. What's his name? Mark, she muttered, tears welling up in her eyes. Mark, I repeated, letting the name roll off my tongue. Mark, the guy you've been meeting in fancy hotels while telling me you're at book club or the spa. Mark, the guy who's been stealing my wife while I'm working overtime to pay for this house, for your car, for your life. That Mark? No. She broke down then, sobbing, her hands covering her face. I didn't move to comfort her. I couldn't. The sight of her tears did nothing but fuel my anger. Ethan, I'm so sorry, she choked out between sobs. I never meant for this to happen. It was a mistake. Stop, I said sharply, cutting her off. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk from the store. Sleeping with another man for 6 months? That's not a mistake, Lisa. That's a choice. Repeated. Deliberate. A betrayal. She stared at me, her tear-streaked face full of regret, but I couldn't tell if it was regret for what she had done or for getting caught. I can't lose you, she whispered, stepping closer to me. I'll end it with him. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. Please, Ethan, I love you. I laughed then, a cold, bitter laugh that seemed to surprise even me. You love me? I echoed. You don't betray someone you love, Lisa. You don't destroy their trust, their sense of self, their world, and then tell them you love them. I turned away from her, unable to look at her face any longer. I walked to the living room and picked up a folder from the coffee table. I handed it to her. Take a look. Her hand shook as she opened the folder. Inside was everything the investigator had gathered. Photos, hotel receipts, timestamps. Proof. Her face crumpled as she flipped through the evidence. Ethan, Save it, I said, cutting her off again. You've said enough. I had spent the last 3 weeks not only uncovering the truth, but preparing for this moment. I'd consulted a lawyer, changed the passwords to all our accounts, and had the locks to the house rekeyed. Everything was set. "I want you out of this house by tomorrow," I said. "I've already spoken to a lawyer. The divorce papers will be ready next week." She gasped. "Divorce? Ethan, no. Please, we can work through this. We can go to counseling, start fresh." "There's no starting fresh, Lisa. Not after this. You killed whatever was left of us the moment you let him into your life." She fell to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. But her tears couldn't undo the damage. They couldn't erase the image of her in that red dress, her body pressed against another man's. They couldn't repair the shards of trust she'd shattered into a million pieces. I left her there, crumpled on the kitchen floor, and walked upstairs to our bedroom. I grabbed a suitcase I'd packed earlier and wheeled it into the guest room. I didn't want to spend another night in the same bed with her. That night, I couldn't sleep. Memories of our life together played in my mind like a cruel montage. The day we met, our wedding, the vacations, the plans we made for the future, all of it felt like a lie now. I wondered how long she had been unhappy, how long she had been pretending, and then I wondered why I hadn't seen it sooner. The next morning, Lisa was gone. She left a note on the counter, begging me to reconsider, but I didn't read past the first line. I didn't need to. Her actions had spoken louder than any words ever could. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding. I threw myself into work, reconnected with friends I'd neglected, and started therapy. I learned to let go of the anger, the bitterness, the hurt, and eventually I found peace. One day, I received a message from Mark's wife. She had found out about the affair as well and wanted to meet. Over coffee, we shared our stories, our pain, and our plans for moving forward. It was strangely therapeutic. We realized we deserved better, and we vowed to support each other in our respective journeys to healing. Months later, I heard through the grapevine that Lisa's relationship with Mark had fallen apart. She had moved out of the city, leaving behind the life she had destroyed. I felt no satisfaction in her downfall, only a sense of closure. She had made her choices, and I had made mine. The photo that started it all now sits in a box in my closet, a relic of a past life. It serves as a reminder of the lessons I've learned. To value honesty, to never settle for less than I deserve, and to always trust my instincts. And as for me, I'm doing okay. Better than okay, actually. I've started dating again, cautiously optimistic about the future. For the first time in a long time, I feel free. Free to live, to love, to be happy. And that, I've realized, is the best revenge of all.